It's Brandon Lewis with the Tennessee Conservative News Update. This is another share alert. I'm not going to tell you to do this for every news break. It's not going to be my intention. It's not going to be my modus operandi. But when we've really got breaking news going on, when we've really got something that needs to get out there, when we've got something the mainstream liberal media in Tennessee will not cover adequately, and I'll talk about that in a moment, I have to ask you, as conservative citizen journalists, okay, conservative citizen journalists, to share this everywhere. So I'm going to bring you an update to a huge story we broke on Friday about the fact that they are detaining migrant children. Could be 100, could be 200, could be 300. I don't know, but they're detaining migrant children right here in Tennessee. So Joe Biden's border crisis is it's knocking on the door of Tennessee, and it's already having some direct impacts, and I'm going to talk to you about those. So I need you to watch this, share, comment, let me know where you're watching from, but this is a big deal. So we broke this story on Friday that they are housing, very likely, migrant children here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the hundreds. And from what I've been able to gather, primarily through conversations of people that have inside tracks, these migrant children are being brought into Tennessee. They've got a phone number written on them, and they are temporarily housed in these migrant camps, which moved into Chattanooga, Tennessee. There may be a migrant camp somewhere in your city. Who knows? I had to break this story. I don't know who gave authorization for it. I don't know who's behind it. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to do this without any public debate, but nonetheless, we'll get down to answers. We're doing an update tomorrow. But there have already been some real big breaking news on this. I do need you to share this because the mainstream media is not covering this detention center like they should. So number one, this is what's happened. And I'll get to the other news stories in a moment. Breaking story, most important one, again, following up on this story we broke on Friday. County school principals to immediately, and this is a big deal, county school principals told to immediately register expected influx of unattended migrant children. Principals at Hamilton County Schools have been instructed, this is from Chattanoogan.com, okay? This is my good friend John Wilson over there picked up our story, and he's doing his own work here. Principals at Hamilton County Schools have been instructed to immediately register an unexpected influx of unattended migrant children. This is an update from Chattanoogan.com. You can go there. It's a great straight down the middle publication. And the principals received an email from Laura Greer, homeless liaison with the county schools. She wrote, the Chattanooga area may experience an increase of unattended migrant youth. If any student shows up to register at your school, please register them immediately. They do not need 2 proofs of residency to be in zone. Now, our own kids in schools that are struggling, that need to leave and find a better school, no. Citizens can't move. Now, citizens, Hamilton County kids that are in struggling, failing schools, they can't move, but you can come here from outside the country. Pick whatever school you want to go to, I guess. They don't need 2 proofs of residency, a birth certificate, immunization record. Now, we're going to force vaccines all over the place, and we can't get a vaccine passport passed in lots of settings because we have rhino Republicans. But here we go. No immunization record or proof of guardianship, as they will be covered under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act. So there you go, right? We got this big homeless shelter. They're already telling us that our schools are struggling. Only 1 in 3 kids can read. Now it's even gotten worse because of the mismanagement of the pandemic. But we can put as many illegal aliens in the schools as we need, and they don't even have to comply with the same things a citizen would comply with. Share this, please. Now, I did get a response from HHS. Finally, we sent a media inquiry into them, and this is apparently the federal Biden-driven group that is authorizing this stuff. And here they gave us this governmental bullcrap reply. I'll read it to you. The Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, at HHS administration for children and families provided residential care and services of unaccompanied children through contracts or competitive, non-competitive grant processes to organizations incorporated under the state law that have demonstrated child welfare, social service, or related experience and are appropriately licensed. I don't care about all that crap. I'm like, why did this thing get here? What's the impact going to be on Tennessee? And who authorized it? To provide care and associated services to dependent children, recipients of ORR funding, and we know that this group that decided to set up camp secretly, in my opinion, with no public discourse, secretly, with the help of a nonprofit organization in town here, without ever communicating with the community. I think that's pretty underhanded thing to do. That's just my personal opinion. Receipts of ORR funding, this group that's in there now has gotten 3.7 million. Who knows? They may have gotten more. That provide residential services for UC that must comply with state residential care licensing requirements, so on and so forth. Florist settlement agreement case, gobbledygook, blah, blah, government language here. The Baptiste group, these are the people who are now shoving, the Baptiste group are now shoving unaccompanied migrant children into our public schools, which we really need in the middle of a pandemic when we're already struggling to get kids to read, has a state licensed facility or UC or ORR care. ORR has specifically a requirement for provision of services. Award recipients must have the infrastructure, licensing experience, and appropriate level of trained staff to meet those requirements. Great. I'm not really looking for the details here on why there are hundreds of migrant children inside the state of Tennessee. I'm like wanting to know, why did it happen? Who did it to us? And what's the impact going to be for our community? And did anybody think about this before they thought it was a good idea? Now we've already reached out to some federal representatives, some state representatives, and some local representatives. And hopefully now that this thing has seen the light of day, some of them will grow some cojones and they will actually get out there and try to protect our community from whatever's coming from this. Amazing. Amazing. I'll give you more updates, but please do share this. People need to know that the crisis at the border, they're setting up these centers to distribute these unaccompanied minors all over the United States. Now, they've taken away our rights and liberties for the last 12, 14, 16 months, but they'll gladly spend your money and mine to get illegal aliens distributed all over the United States with your money and with your schools and with your infrastructure. So if you want to stop this stuff, I suggest you share this video, and I suggest you start getting on the phone with the state, local people in Tennessee and the governor's office and everybody else, and you ask them, how in the heck did this stuff happen? And who's going to take care of it? That's why you go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com and you go to the support button, because this is what conservative journalism looks like. And we can't do it without you. And when you go there, we're about to get to the rest of the news break items. We'll send you 2 proud Tennessee conservative bumper stickers and a directory of elected officials, so you can call these people and say, how did hundreds of migrant children get funneled through Tennessee without any public discussion whatsoever? And if you give more than $50, I'm sorry I'm hot about this today, and it took me forever to get answers. I should have gotten answers Friday, right? I mean, transparency. If you give more than $50, as many of you did this weekend, we will send you a proud Tennessee conservative tumbler. And if you put Rhino Republican policies in here and close the lid and shake it up, they actually come out as common sense measures. So maybe we should get some of our state and local officials to get some of these puppies so that their legislation will actually work for you. Next story. Rutherford County Mayor. So if you're in Murfreesboro, share this with your friends in Murfreesboro. Audited to find source of mystery funds. Rutherford County Mayor Bill Ketron will face a hearing this week that will delve into accusations of 63 campaign finance violations against him. FYI, I used to be in the campaign fundraising world. I wrote a book called How to Raise Money for Political Office, so this stuff kind of intrigues me. Rutherford County Commissioner Robert Stevenson's request that the audits be done for Ketron's campaign accounts for county mayor, state senator, and Quest Political Action Committee PAC. Stevens would like to know just where nearly $44,450 in unreported campaign contributions came from. Who knows? Who knows? The mayoral candidate or mayoral account audit shows that a total of 30 violations of state law, with 2 of those being listed as violations in the state Senate account. The state Senate audit finds an additional 18 violations, and the PAC account audit has 5. Ketchum could be slapped with up to about $10,000 in a civil penalty for each violation, although minor violations could rack up lesser amounts. He already is facing previous penalties in the amount of $80,000. I don't think I've ever seen somebody slapped with these many penalties in the state local campaign finance realm before. If somebody knows of somebody that's got hit with more fines than that, please do put it in the comments section. I'd be curious to know. $20,000 worth of those penalties from his senator account, and another 60 comes from the PAC account. So in February of 2020, Kelsey Ketron, who served as the campaign treasurer, pleaded no contest to 15 counts, which included forgery, theft of property, fraudulent insurance acts, and impersonation of a licensed professional. I don't know if she was impersonating a plumber or there's no telling. She was sentenced to 8 years of probation and $10,000 and a fine of 300 hours of community service. So that's a big no-no. Moving next to the next story. Tennessee teacher shortage addressed with second rounds of grants. We just got to throw more money at the problem. The Tennessee Department of Education has announced a second round to grow your own grants. I don't know if this is about marijuana. I don't think it is. We're going to keep reading. In an effort to help future educators across the state, this next round consists of $2 million for educator preparation programs. The initiative was created to address teacher shortages in Tennessee. The second round, much like the first, will give $100,000 to 20 EPPs in the state, which are areas that they'll put this money. TDOE Commissioner Penny Schwinn, who is an embarrassment to education in the state of Tennessee. Not only is she failing, not only does she make the government look bad, she's the one that cooked up this child wellness check nonsense. If any of you remember this, where state bureaucrats could come and check on your children just to make sure they're okay during the pandemic, even if you weren't in public schools. Just because they've done so well with our kids in the government schools, they think that they need to check on your kids because you're not doing a good job. Old Penny Schwinn's going to come to the rescue and make sure that your parenting skills are up to snuff. I feel more confident just reading this message, knowing that it's coming from her. The department's Grow Your Own program helps to develop strong local partnerships to ensure that Tennessee's future teachers have streamlined, no-cost pathways to becoming a professional educator in the classroom, and that children across the state, regardless of where they live, what grade they're in, or what subject they're actually studying, that they will fail miserably because government schools suck. I put that part in there. Have highly qualified teachers that represent them in their communities. This program puts the needs of our students first, and we're thrilled to offer a second round of grants. Everything always puts the kids first, except for their academic performance. We like to put that last. School district takeover proposal bill stalls for now in Tennessee legislature. A Tennessee lawmaker has quietly postponed a bill that details a process for the state to take over school districts failing short of their academic goals. Now listen, I don't pretend to know what's going on here, but I bet I smell a teachers union. And there's nothing that a Republican is more afraid of, a rhino one especially, than a teachers union. And I bet they're circling the wagons on this one. I don't know that for sure. That's just complete commentary. That's my opinion. Without comment, and amid a flurry of other legislation this week, Senator Joey Hensley delayed the measure in the Senate Education Committee until next year. Hey, failing schools, let's deal with it next year. Those kids will be fine. They may be illiterate. It's okay. No big deal. We'll deal with it next year. Everything is better dealt with next year. Staff for Hensley referred all questions to Representative Scott Sapicki. I'm going to say Sapicki. The bill's House sponsor, Sapicki, said on Friday that he supports the delay until January of 2022, when lawmakers will kick off the second year of the 2-year legislative session. No time later, Sapicki, a Republican from Murray County near Nashville, said the bill is intended to bring clarity to a state law that already gives Teachers Education Commissioner the authority to take control of the school district. That includes potentially firing a local superintendent and replacing elected school board members if the Tennessee State Board of Education approves. I don't know about that. I still think it would be prudent to have a clearly defined process in place to make sure all avenues are exhausted before the state would take the ultimate action of taking over a school district. I don't know that we're not past that point with many of these school districts that have complete failing academic records. Back to the story. The takeover legislation, which passed last month in a House subcommittee, would authorize a commissioner to develop an improvement plan or assume all powers of governance for any district that is not meeting or historically has not met, which is probably a lot of them, performance goals and measurements of the state boards. Whew, it's a rough education report here. Nationally, okay, U.S. Supreme Court overturns California's restriction on in-home religious activities. It took the Supreme Court to stand up for something that is so basic and fundamental, and it should be known in the Constitution that we have religious liberties and that emergencies do not suspend our constitutional rights. Bill Lee, emergencies don't suspend any rights. They shouldn't. But back to the story. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled late Friday that California's COVID-19 restrictions on in-home religious gatherings, limiting worship to families from a maximum of 3 households, could not continue. Great. Now, this is the thing. In the 5-4 decision, that's what we're hanging on by here, people. The Supreme Court reversed a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling allowing Governor Gavin Newsom, what a piece of work, limits on people exercising their First Amendment rights to freely practice religion in their home. He even wants to control what you can do in your own home. California treats some comparable secular activities more favorable than at-home religious exercises, permitting hair salons, retail stores, personal care services, movie theaters, private suites at sporting events and concerts, and indoor restaurants to bring together more than 3 households at a time, the court said. Before the state of California can limit religious gatherings more strictly than other secular activities, it must provide that they are a greater risk, which they can't. Otherwise, precautions that suffice for other activities suffice for religious exercise too. And I don't think they should be able to infringe upon it at all. That's just my opinion. Hey, here's a related story. And I'm going to read some of the comment sections here, if it's okay. I'll read some of the comment sections. I'm going to go in here. We got Steve from Bristol. We got Melissa from Clinton. We've got Lisa from, just saying Tim Atwood, FYI. Thank you, Philip, for coming in here from Brentwood. Where's our governor? Good question. Where is Bill Lee? They're dumping migrants all over the state of Tennessee. Maybe Bill Lee should weigh in. We've reached out to his office. I've not heard any comment. Was wondering how this has come about. I heard rumors about this. It's not a rumor. It's just happening. Heard it's there in Chattanooga. It is. Back to the story here. Where are the lawmakers? Where are they? I'm asking the same question, Leslie. I'm glad that I moved to Tennessee. Keep up the great work. Well, we're trying to keep the wolves at the door here, David. Here's not close to the last story. 172,000, okay, illegal immigrant crossing in March. Situation horrific to see. Okay, 172,000 illegal immigrant crossings in March. Brandon Judd, president of the National Border Patrol Council, met with Republican lawmakers this week to explain the nature of the problem that the Border Patrol is facing on a daily basis. I would argue that it's the biggest surge we've ever seen in the history of Border Patrol. Well, we know it's right here in Tennessee. Judd said during a roundtable with members of Congress, Texas landowners, and law enforcement. The 2-day trip to McClellan, Texas was spearheaded by U.S. Rep. Jim Jordan and included several Republican lawmakers and the House Judiciary Committee. Jordan said that House Democrats were invited to come but declined to participate. And Jordan said what he saw was a catastrophe, which does not surprise me. In all my years in Congress, this has been the most disturbing field tour I've ever taken, said Representative Tom McGlintock. He said that to reporters at Roundtable. Judd says Border Patrol is overwhelmed by a surge of 18,600 unaccompanied illegal immigrant minors, many of which are being deposited right here in Tennessee, in Chattanooga, probably coming to a city near you if they're not already. I love these nonprofits and these businesses that love Tennessee so much that they want to set up centers to dump this in our backyard. I love that. I think that is such a good service to provide. So family units that comprise nearly 53,000 individuals and 96,600 single adults in March alone. They project that more than 1 million accompanied minors will enter the U.S. legally this year. 1 million unaccompanied minors. I wonder how many of them will get here in Tennessee through places, like down here at Tennessee Temple. It's an old building. Biden's $1.5 trillion budget only includes a 1.7 increase for national defense. President Joe Biden released top-level numbers for his proposed 2022 budget Friday. The $1.5 trillion plan includes major spending increases for domestic projects while keeping defense spending essentially steady with inflation. Biden's budget proposes a 15.9% increase in non-defense discretionary spending despite growing concerns over rising debt levels. Who cares about the debt? That's a thing of the past. A crew of leading Republican senators banded together, calling the budget proposal a liberal wish list. Well, we kind of knew all that, didn't we? Republicans criticized Biden for creating a court-packing commission. The Biden administration took heavy criticism Friday after announcing the administration would be formally considering adding more justices to the U.S. Supreme Court. The White House said a new executive order will create a presidential commission composed of experts to study the current practices of the Supreme Court, most notably the membership and size of the court itself. Democrats could outright expand the court and add justices, but another tactic may be to involve putting term limits on justices with the hopes of replacing them with Democratic nominees. Republicans pointing to an overreach of executive authority. Representative Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio, here he is again, responded to the announcements immediately on Twitter, saying Democrats want to close your schools, open your border, take your guns, raise your taxes, cancel your culture, and pack your court. You know, when I say stuff like that, people say it's incendiary and it's not very bipartisan. I'll tell you what it is. It's true. It is true. Locally. Okay, we're going to get to some local story here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Tennessee collector car auction to run during Chattanooga Motorcar Festival. I may go down to that. Meckham Auctions recently announced the addition of a live collector auction to be held at the Chattanooga Convention Center in Chattanooga, Tennessee, this October 15th through 16th. This newly added event will run concurrent with the Chattanooga Motorcar Festival, which is going to be celebrating its second year back from 2019, and it's slated to feature an estimated, listen to this, 600 vintage and collectible cars crossing the block over the 2 auction days, with offerings ranging from classic American muscle cars to Corvettes, race cars, exotics, customs, and more. So we covered some big news today locally. We need to get answers about the migrant shelter that was sneakily put into Tennessee without any conversations or discussions, without any public approval or transparency. And I hope closed circuit transmission to those of you who know state reps, for those of you who know state senators, for those of you who know county mayors, to those of you who know people on the governor's staff, share this video with them. Go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com and share these articles about this center, this breaking news that the Tennessee Conservative has brought to you, because this is a big issue and we need to get to the bottom of it. And I know with citizen journalists like you that are conservatives that we can get there. And please do go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com, hit that support button. A lot of you did that this weekend. It meant a lot to me. I came in here Monday today and I was like, I can't believe so many people gave so much. Just little donations, but they pile up. And it takes a lot of labor to chase these stories down. A lot of phone calls, a lot of conversations, a lot of personal visits. And you think somebody else is going to do it? No, they won't. No, they won't. Somebody else should have reported on this months ago. Did they? We've only got 2 conservative news outlets in this state, Tennessee Star and our paper. And if you don't help us get the news out there, and if you don't help support us, we can't continue to break stories like this. So to go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support, we'll have an updated article for you with more details tomorrow. Until then, I'm Brandon Lewis with Tennessee Conservative News, signing off, guys. We got to fight this stuff. Hang in there. I'll see you soon. Take care, guys.